Eckhart was one of the few enlightened Catholic priests in the Middle Ages. What he wrote later on was not much different from Zen Buddhism, but he used many Catholic terms to cover it up, so that the Roman Curia would not discover what he really meant. At that time, it was not advisable to tell others once you understood, because the doctrines of the secular Catholic Church had already been set in stone, and if you spoke out casually, it would, only by covertly expressing his true meaning behind the ostensibly orthodox religious terms can he do so. You may have a look at your leisure. https://wesh.eckhartsociety.org/Eckhart/his-teachings. What he referred to as good, if you read it, just replace good with it, or Buddha nature, and it would convey the same meaning. I read his books a long time ago and found out that what Jesus said was essentially the same, only that those who didn't understand thought they were different. Father Eckhart actually restored the original meaning that Jesus intended to express. Only those who can understand will understand.
Finding God within. One of Ursula's more provocative remarks was that human nature is such that, whatever we may seem to be doing, or however far we may seem to be from the mark, we are really searching for God. Fleming, 1995. She was prompted to say this by Eckhart's assertion that when we go out of ourselves to find God or fetch God, we are making a mistake. That, on the contrary, we do not find God outside ourselves, and we should not conceive him except as in us, that our best chance of finding God is where we left him.
Minglang. What does it mean to left God? It means following the explanations of thoughts and falling into the logic of thoughts, which is to left God. But this is only a seeming departure. You can never leave. This departure is merely an appearance, therefore. Discovering God is very easy. When you observe the moment of departure, you have observed that the story of thought logic has begun, and that's enough. That's understanding. The vast majority of people do not observe. They immediately take the situation described by thoughts as true and follow thoughts to be sad or happy. Eckhart said, "Go inside to find God." This statement can be easily misunderstood. You don't need to search because you already are. But Eckhart couldn't say you are God, because if he did, he would immediately be accused of blasphemy. He could only say, discover it within yourself. There is no real inside. The so-called inside is cited to deny the outside and inside, concepts explained by thoughts. If you no longer believe in the separation of outside and inside in thoughts, then everything is God. Where is there any inside or outside? In this case, the entire universe is not a universe anymore. It is also your inside.
Being utterly passive. In The Perfect Soul, Notice, he emphasizes that an indispensable condition for this birth is that we should be living a very good Christian life. He distrusts rigid programs for progressing in the spiritual life, saying that there is no single way to God contrary to what many pious people down the centuries have thought. McGinn, 2001. 58. What he does stress is that before anything else, we must be utterly passive. Passivity, as we commonly understand the term, is the very contrary to all that is most admired in our present culture. In fact, Eckhart is not saying that we should be weak and negative and torpid. He was none of those things himself. The eternal birth takes place in the depths of the self of the soul, beyond our senses. And he is saying that with God and help, we should acquire the capacity to inwardly empty the mind of all sense experience, of all that takes us out of ourselves.
He said that one should live in a completely passive way, but this does not mean adopting a pessimistic, negative, or apathetic attitude toward life. Eckhart's passive actually refers to the state of not exerting any care, which is exactly what advanced don't care is about. Another way to put it is the no-resistance life advocated by Tibetan Buddhism's Dzogchen. Eckhart rejected the kind of deliberate pursuit of God and the climb of the spiritual ladder suggested by the Orthodox Church. He says that immortality is actually something that you deeply understand within yourself, rather than something that needs to be acquired through efforts. He said that we should acquire the capacity to inwardly empty the mind of all sense experience. This statement is very easily misunderstood. In fact, what he meant was not to reject sense or feelings, but to not care about what they signify. In fact, I have explained in detail in many blog posts. What is meant by Advanti don't care? Those who don't understand mistakenly think that I shouldn't feel, I shouldn't react, but that's not it. You can freely feel like everyone else and react as well, but don't care. Feeling good, it's it. Feeling bad, it's it. Too. Feeling ordinary, it's it. Who cares?
The dark way to God. Incidentally, this should not be taken to mean that the withdrawal and passivity required for the birth necessarily has to involve rapture or ecstasy. As Bernard McGinn, 2001 p59, says, the dark way to God is given absolute priority. It is of the very nature of the divine word to be hidden in its revelation and revealed in its hiddenness.
This is quite important. He said, rebirth, which I mean as understanding, doesn't necessarily require feeling rapture or ecstasy in the sense of it being felt in the mind. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Understanding is not the only moment. There could be countless small understandings, so small that they are not even noticed. Maybe you yourself will be surprised to discover that while you were struggling with this and that a year ago, now you don't know why you don't have the same kind of struggle anymore. You don't necessarily feel a special kind of rapture. This is not a necessary condition. I completely agree with Eckhart's view. In the last sentence of Eckhart's statement, he emphasized that the divine is to make oneself understand in a concealed form.
Letting ourselves go. If we can learn to let ourselves go, we are in effect letting everything go. Total letting go is the way to gain all things in the God who is the real being of all. Walshy, 2008. Sermon 6. He who would save his soul must lose it. Amatut 1625 is one of Eckhart's favorite sayings of the Lord. He tells us now God wants no more from you than that you should in creaturely fashion go out of yourself and let God be God in you. Go completely out of yourself for God love, and God comes completely out of himself for love of you. Walshy, 2008, Sermon 13b. For, as he says in Sermon 4, God must act and pour himself into us when we are ready. In other words, when we are totally empty of self and creatures, so stand still and do not waver from your emptiness.
He said, let ourselves go. This is a complete let go. Put it another way, it's a complete don't care. Did I make a mistake? Okay, that's its business. Nothing to do with me. Let go. Did I take it seriously? That's its business. Nothing to do with me. Let go. Didn't I understand? Okay, that's its will, nothing to do with me. Let go. Eckhart further explains, whoever would save his soul must lose it. Note, it's not about eliminating the ego. This luging refers to letting go, which is what I said. Not caring about this, not caring about that, not caring about right, not caring about wrong, not caring about neither, right nor wrong. You don't care about any manifestation form in the experience field. This is what Eckhart said as, lose yourself. He said, you must go out of yourself and let God come in. He said, God has no demands on you, just don't prevent him from coming in. What does preventing? It means you care about it. You care about it, taking things seriously, which is also caring. You care about understanding, which is also caring. Let go of even these caring, and you taste the high level and infinite not caring, which is to gradually eliminate the resistance. Then your essence, it, naturally shines. Finally, he said, stand still, not really asking you to keep your body still, but rather it seems that you have become a transparent object, not caring about any changes in the texture of experiences, allowing everything to flow freely through this transparent object. Forest out any resistance, even not taking resistance seriously as resistance.
Being firmly fixed in God. It was Eckhartian view that whenever the mind is firmly fixed on God, The senses are obedient to the mind. Fleming, 1995, p. 17, quoting Evans, 1924, p. 31. In fact, in one of the talks he gave to novices and students when he was prior of Eckhart, he said, "A man should accustom himself to having God present always in his disposition and his intention. Believe me, if you were constant in this way, no one could come between you and the God who is present to you." Walshy, 2008. Talks of Instruction 6.
This passage is profoundly significant. It echoes what I frequently emphasize. I am it, and it is me, utterly non-dual. This is the essence of abiding in it. It also aligns with Nisargadatta Maharajan pivotal teaching. Abide steadfastly in the I am, without deviation. When anything arises, immediately remind yourself, this is it is myself, nothing else. Events cease to be perceived as separate happenings, but as my own being. Eckhart reminds you, please believe me, trust this practice. By persistently abiding in it, there is no possibility that any things could separate you from God.